Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy. In 2014, two 12-year-old girls from Wisconsin, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser, committed a heinous act that shocked the nation. They targeted their friend Payton, also known as Bella Leutner, and attempted to take her life in a misguided attempt to please a creepypasta fictional character known as Slenderman. The girls were found not guilty by reason of mental illness. Weir was sentenced to 25 years to life, while Geyser received 40 years to life behind bars. Recently, though, Weiser was granted early release after serving only 7 years in a mental health facility, and now Geyser is also seeking release this year. And the question arises, should these girls be allowed to come back into society after serving less than a decade for such a horrific act? I mean, the victim, Payton Leutner, continues to cope with the aftermath, but has a message of hope. So let's get into it on this episode of Parawomen Radio. I'm going to roll some credits and I'll see everybody in just a moment. Guys, welcome to Parawomen Radio. I'm Amy.
Carefully strumming this old guitar, words rolling out into the fire. Never ask why my heart burned blue. Here in the haze where you inspire me. Here in the darkness I hear my cue. Time to find some solitude. Here where my soul bleeds openly, deep in the heart of sin and you. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you. Here in the blue, I'm dancing with you tonight.
Here in the blue, I get to dance with my friends on this Wednesday night. How's everyone doing tonight? Was it a good Wednesday? It is Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. I thought this October was going to be different. I'm not going to lie. I thought it would be different. But I also thought this would be a good episode to do in the month of October because of the creepypasta. And also, I wasn't thinking this probably would have been a great show to do on Sunday on highly strange days. But, you know, I'm having the problems with the laptop and I needed something that I could do quickly. So this is what we're doing. And I did watch the Slenderman HBO docuseries, and I have to say that either my level of snobbery on docuseries has gone up or it wasn't that great. And it came to mind like, is this like another HBO? Because Paradise Lost, they did Paradise Lost, and those guys are out on an Alfred plea. And then, the staircase guy, isn't he out on an Alfred plea? And this thing where these girls, Anissa is out already after 7 or 8 years, and Morgan wants out now. She's I think, come at it like 2 times asking to be out, and she's back up again saying, "I want out." And they weren't tried as juveniles. And I always thought they were, and that I thought that's why they were getting out. It's like mental illness. And in my opinion, Anissa, the one who is out already, she was the one that wasn't mentally ill. She wasn't mentally ill. I don't think Morgan, the one that wants out now, I think her dad has schizophrenia, and I think she probably does have mental illness. And I think they got the mental illness because the judge ruled that they wouldn't be tried, that they would be tried as adults. So I don't think, and this was way back, way back, well, 10 years ago. And I think the tide has changed on kids and violence and holding them more accountable, because you're seeing more and more kids being tried as adults. Hi, Veronica. Hi, Chrissy. Hi, Heavenly. Hi, Gail. Hi, Tony. And I think I saw Mally. Oh, yep. Hi, Mally. Hi, Gail. Hi, everyone. So what do you guys think about this? We're gonna get into it. We're gonna first talk about really briefly like what is the Slender Man, and then we're gonna like hop in the Wayback Machine and go back to when it was happening and show the girls, and then like kind of show their evolution to where we are now. And we even have Bella, which is Payton Leutner. She prefers to be called Bella, so we will call her Bella. And we even have a little update on her. So these girls are evil, evil. Yeah, I tend to think that maybe I worry about Anissa. Because, but I worry about anybody that is willing to unalive somebody. I don't care if you're like mentally ill or if you're under the influence. If you're willing to go with the plan to come at somebody in a harmful way, not in a mistaken way. And we had a conversation about this, the mods and I, and some of the mods and I. And this is exactly how I feel. And I don't know. I wonder how many years they would have been out if they had been tried as adolescents. Would it have been less than this 8 and nearly 10 years? Because I don't think the key should be thrown away. Like, especially with these girls, because I mean, by the grace of God, hey, Bella lived, but I don't know. I don't think the key should be thrown away for most kids, but I don't think 10 years, 8 years, 10 years, I don't think that's enough. But she didn't end up passing, but 19 times I can't say the word. And I looked up like, what is a better word for the S word? Like, she punctured her 19 times, and the other girl stood by and watched it. Like, standing by and watching it. I don't know, like, that's no better. In the HBO docuseries, I didn't finish this thought, but the HBO docuseries just felt like another like way to influence the judicial system, because it worked on those other cases. And the parents the whole time during the docuseries were like making excuses. And I get like maybe why Morgan's mom was, because I mean, Morgan saw things and had imaginary friends and stuff like that. But Anessa was fine. She was bullied at school. She was really bullied at school, but she lied about it. Like she told her cousin that like she was super popular and all the boys wanted to date her. And then another alarming thing that the Anessa's dad, well, I just made a list. Let me just pull this up. And before I go in, I'm going to talk about this docuseries. Uh, and I can't show the docuseries because HBO would get me in trouble. But for this docuseries, I feel like the dad talked about like he felt like he blamed it on the iPad use. Like if she didn't have the darn iPad, none of this would have happened. And then he says, and we don't allow closed doors in this house. And then he quickly corrects himself. He goes, well, if you're dressing or just getting out of the bath. But I mean, she was 12 years old and she wasn't allowed to close her door unless she was getting dressed. I mean, that's a problem, I think, especially for girls. And maybe, like, actually just for kids, they need to start having, and that age, privacy is everything. So I thought that was like a super big red flag. And then Anessa's mom says that they have divorced. And I'm like, well, yeah, if there's no closed doors in the house, who could live under those rules? And Morgan's dad has schizophrenia. Morgan, they mentioned at the end of the docuseries, she's the only one that they mentioned that she was placed on medication willingly. So Anessa, again, who I have a problem with already, no medication was mentioned about her. And also, I thought just because Anessa didn't do the jabbing, I mean, what is worse? Watching it happen? And this is, to me, also dangerous, super dangerous, because Anessa, I don't think, had a mental health condition. I think she probably had a slight mental health condition because she was being abused, or not abused, sorry, bullied at school, but she still had other relationships. She had these friendships with she had this friendship with Morgan. She had this friendship with her cousin. And Anessa was the one that told Morgan about Slenderman. Like it was true. And later Morgan said that they should in order to be with she said that in order to be with Slenderman, which they called it was his proxy. And we're going to get into what Slenderman is and how he collects the children. But Morgan said that in order to become a proxy, Slenderman told her that they had to unalive Bella. So this is how this all began. But it was all Anessa's was the one that brought Slenderman to Morgan. And Anessa's being held as not as bad because she didn't commit the act. So she's out, but she also was the one that was not mental, so she was doing, anyway. Do you get what I'm saying? Does anyone agree? I just feel like I'm watching Anatomy of a Lie, and I just, in this Finch lady, and I just feel like, and with Diddy, and Hollywood cannot be trusted at all. So these docuseries, like, you have to really vet the docuseries, because you can't just, it used to be, I don't know, or maybe it didn't used to be, we were just didn't vet the docuseries. I don't know. Like, obviously we didn't vet the docuseries. Look at Gypsy Rose, Mommy Dead and Dearest, but you got to vet the docuseries from now on. And I'm just waking up to it, you guys. So I guess I'm just shocked and talking about it. Anyone else feel this way? That HBO is just like another, probably in the court's pocket or Hollywood's pocket. I don't know. It's a good way to get out of doing time later on, is get your. I was thinking Sarah Boone needs an HBO docuseries. So there's not a snowball's chance and HE double toothpicks that woman's going to win her case. So she should have got herself an HBO docuseries. I'm sure in her mind she should have gotten it too. All right, so let's get into it. So let me get my screen up here, and away we'll go. I also figured out that if I prop my laptop sideways, I can charge it. So it's propped sideways. Do you see this, universe? This is how much I want to do this show. Please help me, universe. All right. Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it, Heavenly? It's just really shocking. Okay, here we go about Slenderman.
This girl is in bed, and a tall, shadowy man comes into her bedroom. And somehow he doesn't have a face. And he starts talking to her telepathically. And he says he's been following her. Now, her name's Morgan. She's almost 12, and she lives a pretty normal life. But one day, one of her best friends, this girl, Anissa, she starts telling Morgan stories about this creepy mythical man she's been reading about online. A man they call Slenderman. And she tells her about how Slenderman likes to abduct people, especially kids. And Morgan loves these stories and the lore, and she becomes obsessed with Slenderman.
And I have to say, I loved the creepy stories when I was that age. I don't know. I've always liked the creepy, mystical. I was reading the witch books. Like, I was in elementary, like combing the library for the witch books. I remember I used to read this witch book series where she wrote a vacuum. I used to love that one. And then there was one where they would go under the bed and go back and go around in time. I always loved those kind of books, and I liked the scary ones. There was a Saturday morning cartoon, because back in the day we only got the cartoons at certain times. We got the Saturday mornings, and then we got the early mornings before school, and then you didn't get the cartoons again until 3 p.m. and then 7 they went away, because that's when the parents sat down. But I liked the creepy stuff, and so I don't fault, and a lot of kids like the creepy stuff. Does anyone watch Monsters, or listen to, it's a podcast, Monsters Among Us? Now it's so popular with the kids that he's separated it, and there's like a Monsters Among Us youth podcast now. And also Slenderman, I don't know if some say he's the Pied Piper myth come to life, like this it's made by an artist, but was he influenced by a cryptoid, or was he influenced by the Pied Piper? Because I never remembered the Pied Piper being evil. I just remember him like getting rid of the rats. But now that I think about it, because the townspeople didn't pay him, he took the children. And so the Slenderman is supposed to be a representation of the children. Here's another quick one where they talk about the actual Slenderman story, not of the girls, but where he came from.
There are woodcuts dated back to the 16th century in Germany, featuring a tall, disfigured man with only white spheres where his eyes should be. They called him the Grossman, or the Tall Man. He was a fairy who lived in the Black Forest. Bad children who crept out into the woods at night would be chased by that tall man. He wouldn't leave them alone until he caught them, or until the children told the parents what they had done.
Yes.
Even then, there was this chilling account from an
That's
old journal
exactly
dated
what
around.
it was. It was a creepy pasta character. And it was an artist that made it from creepypasta. And this is who Slenderman. There's a lot of stories about the Slenderman. And I don't know, like, if you do listen to Monsters Among Us, it's a show, or if you don't, it's a show where people call in and they talk about their paranormal experience, and which includes conspiracy, UFO, cryptoids, and stuff like that. And there's a lot of tall men, dark men standing in the corner where you can't see his face, or there's this man, the man with the cowboy hat, he's always in black. The mirrored men. I mean, I don't know if what I'm saying is, I don't know if creepypasta guy isn't something pulled from an actual cryptoid, but I think he's a lot of things put together. But he's from the mind of an artist.
Around 1702. It's translated from German, so the words might be inaccurate.
My child Lars is gone, taken from his bed. The only thing we found is a scrap of black clothing. It feels like cotton, but it's softer, thicker. Lars came into my bedroom the other day screaming at the top of his lungs that the angel is outside. I asked him what he was talking about, and he told me some nonsense fairy story about der Grossman. He said he went into the groves by our village, and he found one of our cows dead, hanging by a tree. I thought nothing of it at first, but now he's gone. We must find Lars, and my family must leave before we're killed. I'm sorry, my son. I should have listened. May God forgive me.
So there's another one, but it's actually...
So there's tons of stories like that where the children are lured away, the parents don't listen. Anessa's parent blames it on the iPad and was also like fighting not to let the fifth grade boy, they were going to introduce iPads in the fifth grade, and he was against that. And I'm like thinking, this was like 10 years ago, or maybe even probably 11 or 12, because it probably took a few years to go to trial. But it's like, you're hindering your son from progressing later in life by doing that, in my opinion, because the world is technology. Like, they don't need to have it all the time, but they need to have it to learn, because that everyone else is using it to learn. So I don't know. I say don't blame it on the iPad. Like, to me, it would be terrifying to have kids and have the internet in your house, because like you're welcoming the whole world into your house, basically. And you've got to be defend your house as if you're defending it from like anybody just walking through the door. They're walking through the iPad. But maybe back then people didn't realize it because it was new. I don't know. Anyway, let's move on. Let's go way back and look at when it all happened. Let me make sure you're seeing it. You are. Okay.
charged as an adult for trying to kill her mother and her brother. Tonight, we know she was looking at websites involving the fictional character Slenderman just before deputies say she set her home on fire after an argument. Investigators telling us late this afternoon they found a journal belonging to the teen. Among things they say the suspect wrote, quote, "If this keeps up, there will be no safety in this house. And Mom, if you ever find this before it happens, I'm sorry." We're also told she was influenced by violent online stories like Slenderman. One of her friends told us what's in those stories.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a different one. This is another girl, apparently, that did it for Slenderman. Sorry about that, guys. I have this one, though, for you.
Their classmate's life. Last May, they
when their interrogations were released, and we don't have time to go through all of the interrogation, but if you are interested in this story further, we could do this. We could talk more about the creepypasta and watch their interrogations, because they're pretty like jarring to watch, in my opinion. Because like this one right here, let me make sure you're seeing what I'm okay. So this one right here is Morgan, and this one's Anissa. So this one right here asks during the interrogation, like, did Bella live? And the officer's like, I don't know. This one asked, do you know how far I walked? Because I'm pretty out of shape, and that's probably the furthest I've ever walked. So, yeah.
At just 12, these two girls nearly took another classmate's life. Last May, they lured her to a wooded area where police say they stabbed her 19 times. Video of their interrogation being made public for the first time.
Who stabbed her first?
I think Anissa stabbed her first, and then I continued, and then she was like, "Morgan, make sure she doesn't escape." She told me that she got her in the lung right here 6 times, and then in the leg a few times.
The criminal complaint says the victim, who was also 12, was badly wounded. One knife strike coming so close to her heart, the criminal complaint says she was 1 millimeter away from certain death. Still, she survived. Not exactly how her attackers, Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser, were hoping this would end. Listen.
So we told her we were gonna get help, but we really weren't. We were gonna run and let her.
And I just want to point, this is the one that's out. This is the one that's out.
Pass away. So we ran.
The girls also told detectives how they each took part in the stabbing. This is their supply list. Notice the kitchen knife?
So then how did you get the knife from Anissa?
She sort of just shoved it into my hand, and there it was. And then I didn't know what I did. It sort of just happened.
Oh.
It didn't feel like
I think I'm wrong. I think I'm absolutely wrong. Anissa was the one that committed the crime of the actual 10 times worse, because she's the one that I feel wasn't mentally ill in any way. And she's talking about, oh no, wait, this is Morgan. I'm right. Sorry. This is actually Morgan, and she's talking about what it felt like.
Anything. It was like air.
Anissa was supposed to do it, but she said she couldn't do it, and she put it in Morgan's hand and said, go ballistic or something like that.
Incredibly, the victim managed to crawl out of the woods. A bike rider found her and got her to the hospital. The young suspects were arrested soon after, both charged as adults with attempted first-degree intentional homicide. When investigators asked why they did it, they both had the same answer: Slenderman. And this is where a violent and nearly murderous act becomes simply bizarre. Slenderman is a fictional internet monster.
And so here's a little bit more of their interrogation. I feel like this ABC News, I think news they covered this case, and I feel like they did a much better job than HBO.
Adults. Authorities say they lured their friend, a 12-year-old.
Oh, sorry, my laptop's
Into the woods and attacked her, all to impress a fictional character on the internet, Slenderman. Tonight, the interrogation tapes released.
Tonight, like much of this country, it is a snowy and frigid Friday night in Waukesha, Wisconsin, where this week an entire community was stunned.
Isn't it interesting too? Because I feel like a lot went down in Waukesha because, well, it has been going down because that's Daryl Brooks. And I know there's another case, but I can't remember what it is in Waukesha. Lots been going down. Hey, mean chick, Carrie.
All over again, hearing for the first time from two girls in their own voices about the night they allegedly lured their friend into the woods, just 12 years old, and stabbed her 19 times.
Also, I wrote down, I
Morgan
thought
Geyser,
it was
just 12 at the time.
very interesting at the end of the docu-series. They like showed these woods where it happened. They like leveled the woods. So the woods are no more because this happened. And they probably put like a development on it. They probably wanted to do that anyway.
Tells an investigator about the victim, her friend, the same young girl they left for dead in those woods.
She was my only friend for a long time because
Why would you hurt your
Yes, that's
it was necessary.
And for
yes. Okay. Dahmer was in Waukesha. Okay. I knew there was another big one that came out of there. Like there must be something in the water in that town.
First time we also hear from Anissa Weier, also 12 at the time, her face blurred, the court ordering both of their faces hidden.
I said, I'm scared. I was told that if I didn't do something, my family would be in danger.
Who and what were they scared of? The girls say Slenderman, a fictional character on the internet.
Who's Slenderman?
He's this tall, faceless man who preys on children.
Ever met him?
Not exactly.
Tell me about him.
He watches you.
We have spent months documenting the victim's recovery. Her mother, knowing that her daughter Payton survived crawling out of those woods, stunned because one of those girls had come over often for sleepovers.
Police say Morgan said, "It was weird that I didn't feel remorse."
Yeah.
This was a girl who had been in your home many, many times. That line, "It was weird that I didn't feel remorse."
The mother said in the docu-series of Morgan, that was another strange thing with Morgan. She didn't appear to have normal reactions to things, like when she said when she first saw Bambi for the first time, the mother was like, I don't know if I should let her see this. I don't know how, like, because I remember Bambi was upsetting. I didn't understand it. And I remember asking my mom, like, what happened to Bambi? And she was like, oh, Bambi went for a nap. So she didn't fully explain it to me. But apparently Morgan, and I believed whatever the heck my mom said, like, I'm looking back on it now and I'm like, ugh. But Morgan was like, run, Bambi, run. Like not even worrying about the mom, like save yourself, she said. And so she just didn't have normal reactions to things. Okay, so, and this is another thing. I wanted to look at the moms of the guilty teens in Slenderman case speak out.
Sentenced for the crime, and ABC's Lindsay Davis is here with the latest. Good morning, Lindsay.
Good morning, Georgia. Tearful apology in court Thursday from Morgan Geyser, and I'm sorry to her former friend for stabbing her 19 times. But the Wisconsin judge still gave her the maximum sentence, a teenage girl who likely won't experience freedom until her 50s because of a crime she committed when she was 12.
I just want to let Ella and her family know I'm sorry.
Sentenced to a maximum 40 years in a psychiatric hospital, Morgan Geyser expressed remorse in court for the stabbing attack of her friend and 12-year-old classmate, Payton Bella Leutner.
But I mean, is the remorse because now she's going to have to spend 40, well, she's going to spend 40 years. We know that. But Is it because she was thinking she was going to spend 40 years behind bars? I mean, now the medication probably has kicked in and she's realized, and I don't know. I don't know if she like didn't feel the remorse because she was mentally ill at the time. Like that's not a normal reaction. Like it felt like air, and I mean to say stuff like that. But it also says to me like she was kind of like, it felt like air. Like she was enamored with the way it felt. I don't know.
Yeah. She appears to be what? Yeah.
The 2014 case known as the Slenderman stabbing
Yeah.
captivated the country. Geyser and her friend Anissa Weier, both 12 at the time, lured Leutner into the woods and stabbed her 19 times, later claiming it was all to please that fictional online character. Leutner miraculously survived. Both girls were sentenced to decades of institutional supervision for the violent attack. In an exclusive interview, ABC's David Muir sat down with the mothers of those teenage girls.
The interrogation in general is very difficult to watch.
Is she dead?
I don't know. She was taken to the hospital.
That's not my daughter saying those things. That's not the way that she speaks. That's not the way that she acts.
It was like looking at a different child?
Yes.
The parents tell David there were no warning signs of violence.
I did search her iPad. I did watch over her shoulder.
Do you feel responsible?
I think on some level, I'll always feel responsible.
Still talking about that iPad.
For not knowing that.
So, yeah, that's the mothers, and they're still saying it wasn't their daughters. And yeah. So now they were supposedly sentenced for the 20 and 40. But then they started asking to get out.
And Miss Weier attempt to kill, but Miss Geyser and Miss Weier attempt to kill and wanted to kill the victim. The reports show that she was stabbed 19 times in the body, torso. And was basically left to bleed to death.
It's been nearly a decade since two preteen girls lured their classmate to a Wisconsin park and stabbed her repeatedly, nearly killing her, all to appease a faceless online and fictional character known as Slenderman. Now, nearly 10 years later, one of the former preteens is asking a judge to release her from a psychiatric hospital. Anissa Weier and Morgan Geyser were just 12 years old when they attacked and stabbed their classmate Payton Leutner 19 times, leaving her for dead. Geyser held the knife and stabbed the victim, while Weier egged her on. She thankfully survived the horrific attack after crawling to a nearby road, flagging down a cyclist passing by, who then called 911.
Let's move forward to where they talk about asking to get out. Actually, I want to do this. I want to read an article instead for you. I gotta make it bigger. Okay. So Slenderman poking victims speaks publicly for the first time. Without the whole situation, I wouldn't be who I am. And this is Payton Leutner. She was 12 when the two friends led her into a park and did this to her. And I thought it would be good to kind of talk about Payton. And this one, they call her Payton, so maybe she's back to being called Payton. In the docuseries, they call her Bella, and the girls call her Bella. Until now, Payton had never spoken publicly about what happened to her in the woods in the hands of her best friends and another classmate. Her scars from the 19 times she was punctured on May 31st, 2014, testify to the moment of betrayal, but they also mark her incredible strength to survive. I've come to accept all of the scars that I have, she said in an exclusive interview with ABC's David Muir. It's just a part of me. I don't think much of them. They will probably go away and fade eventually. She survived the attack that captured headlines worldwide after assailants claimed they did it for the Slender Man. I just wanted to show you some updated photos of her. She's saying she's doing really well. I get the feeling she doesn't want them to win in any way. So, you know, they spoke with all of the parents in 2014, and she appeared alongside her parents in 2020, but chose not to speak out at the time. Here she is now. I guess that's why I had it smaller so I could see her photo better. But here she is now. Luckily, I don't see any like scars on her arms or up here, but maybe that's why she's wearing this kind of shirt. I don't know. She's worked hard over the last years. This is 5 years, so it must have been like she was 17 in this. She's, you know, older now, obviously, and rebuild a normal life. She told ABC News that she was ready to reclaim her story. I feel like it's time for people to see my side. Then I feel it's time for people to see my side rather than everyone else's, she said, which I can understand her wanting her side to be told. And she just talks about how she was friends with Morgan since like the second grade, and they had an overnight over at Morgan's. She didn't really know Anissa too much, but like everything was normal. She said they had strawberries and then they went to go for a hike/walk, and yeah, she had no idea it was coming. It's really sad. I just feel like you can tell there is something mentally wrong with this one. I don't think it's as visible. I don't think it's visible at all in Anissa, but maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong and I'm being too harsh. I don't think I am being too harsh. I don't think I am. Let's keep going. This is when Anissa was released. It was 3 years ago. So she's been out 3 years.
An international sensation. Now at 5, it's a case that became an international sensation. Now, more than 7 years after being charged, one of 2 teenagers sentenced in the Slenderman stabbing is set to go free. A judge granted Anissa Weier's conditional release after she served 4 years.
I'm super doubtful of anyone too after Gypsy Rose. That's another, but I mean, maybe that's a good thing Gypsy Rose is done. She's made us realize that documentaries are like crap. So basically, or like this one that I'm watching right now, Anatomy of a Lie, is really good. It's put together really well. And I'm enjoying it, but I guess afterwards I'm going to have to go research it and maybe even do a show on it, but to find out if like what they're saying
The
is
Winnebago
true.
Mental Health Institute. Bruce Harrison is live with the latest on Weier's release. Bruce.
Charles, good evening. I'm at David's Park in Waukesha. Not too far from where I'm standing, there was a wooded area where Anissa Weier and her friend Morgan Geyser brutally attacked Payton Leutner some 7 years ago. And this area, Charles, this is one of the areas that Anissa Weier, will not be able to visit under the conditions of her release.
She did 7 years. That's another reason why they don't want to give like people who are rightfully wrong, like mentally ill, because they don't hold them for very long. That guy, I don't know if it was in Canada though. It was in Canada, but there was a guy that like unalived a guy in a bus, and he got out within years, and the whole bus had to get off, and like he was eating them, and he got out. This is why people don't want because they get out very quickly.
Monitored, and she's got restrictions, and she's surely she'll try, hopefully she'll try to go in the right direction.
Sarah Reddy lives just across the street from David's Park, where the attack took place in 2014.
They're giving her everything to make the right decisions.
Weier was just 12 when she and her friend Morgan Geyser lured Payton Leutner to the woods in Waukesha, where Weier encouraged Geyser to stab Leutner in order to please the fictional character Slenderman. Now 19 years old, Anissa Weier will have assistance and restrictions on the outside. Those include a case manager to monitor medication for psychiatric care, monitored internet use, no social media, and no contact with the victim or her family. Waukesha police say Weier's movement will also be restricted by 24/7 GPS monitoring. If she goes too close to the victim's home, workplace, or location of the attack, it will trigger an
I mean, she's being released into the same community of the victim. Oh, jeez.
alert, and police will pick her up for violating the terms of her release. The court decided, based on mental health reviews, that Weier could leave. Juvenile court judge Ashley Wilcott has been following the case closely since the beginning.
The judge said, listen, regardless of how long it has or hasn't been, she, under these conditions, will not be a threat to society, will not be a threat to herself, and will not be a threat to the victim.
From a legal perspective, Wilcott believes rehabilitation for a juvenile is the justice system working, but she understands others may feel differently.
It feels like, how can that be just when my daughter almost died? So for the family, for the victim, I cannot imagine it feels just.
I can't feel it feels just at all. But I mean, she got it. And so now this one's begging for it.
Pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself.
Sorry, I was watching a bit about this.
For development is closing.
Hold on. Let me slide it back. Slide it back. Hey guys, be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Helps us dance out into the algorithm party out there. Bring more people back to the party. It's just a free way to help me out, and it's really, really appreciated. And if you like my content, be sure to subscribe. And if you really like our content, become a dragonfly. We're coming to you on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Hi, guys. And the Dragonfly is the membership section over on YouTube, and it's $2.99 a month.
A woman who nearly stabbed to death her classmate when she was just a preteen in order to appease a fictional character is asking a judge yet again to free her from a psychiatric hospital.
Miss Geyser and Miss Weier attempt to kill and wanted to kill the victim. The reports show that she was stabbed 19 times in the body, torso. And was basically left to bleed to death.
Morgan Geyser was just 12 years old when she and her friend Anissa Weier lured their classmate Payton Leutner to a Waukesha, Wisconsin park. It was there Geyser brutally stabbed Leutner 19 times while Weier egged her on. Leutner barely escaped with her life that day. The case sent shockwaves across the globe when Geyser and Weier told investigators they carried out the stabbing to earn the right to be servants of a sinister yet fictional character named Slenderman.
I'm going to pop us forward because we've gone over and over and over again the Slender Man and the reason why they did it.
Essentials like gas and groceries.
I mean, she looks mentally ill there to me. She looks much better in the latest court things.
Geyser withdrew her first petition for release 2 months after filing it. Then this past April, Geyser had a hearing to determine if she should be released. Dr. Deborah Collins, who evaluated Geyser on several occasions since 2014, months after the stabbing, testified she wasn't ready for conditional release.
But if it is, if it's granted, and if over the next coming months, call it 2 months, you don't say a number of months in your report, let's call it 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Over that period of time, if Morgan continues on the track she's on and continues doing the things that you described here, then you would say it's appropriate for her to be in the community, right?
There will be a point when I anticipate she will be, or believe she will be ready for conditional release in the coming months.
Okay.
There is one doctor that says, yes, she's ready. And then there's another doctor that says, no, she's not ready.
How many months is that, if you had to estimate? Is it 2?
Hi, Kathy.
I don't know.
Let's just assume hypothetically the path that you've seen with Morgan, the positive trajectory you've seen. Let's just assume it continues exactly as you've seen. Is 2 more months at Winnebago sufficient?
My best estimate would be 6 to 12 months.
Dr. Brooke Lundbaum, who also evaluated Geyser, testified the now 22-year-old hasn't thought about the fictional Slenderman for a while, but was adamant there were still concerns about her release.
And just to kind of more directly address a question I know the court had yesterday, and it's also been hinted at, you don't believe that Ms. Geyser faked symptoms to avoid responsibility for the index offense, correct?
Right.
Nor does the rest of her medical team and treatment providers historically, true?
True.
So the general consensus is that.
So even her doctors historically think that she's mentally ill. What do you guys think? Do you think that Anissa, we haven't really looked at her a whole lot, but in looking at her, do you feel like Anissa, the one that egged it on and watched the 19 times and the one that's already out, how do you feel? Do you feel like she's a little more, like she shouldn't be out a little bit more than this one? Like this one was mentally ill and you can tell she's mentally ill. And I don't know. Like if our system were better, I don't know what it's like at a mental health facility, I guess. Maybe they do bang up job over in a mental health facility. They've got to do better job than what they do over in the prison. But I don't think Anissa should have made it over to a mental health facility. I think Anissa should have done some time. If she was being charged as an adult, should have been over at the adult facility. Well, no, not yet. She wouldn't have been put at the adult. But when it was time, she should have been put with the adult. No, I don't know. Let me think. So I think they put them over generally when they're 19, right? They put you over with the adults. Sometimes some do it at 17. So she would have been 19 when she was released. So she might have made it over to the adult facility, but I don't know.
There were psychosis symptoms at the time that they lasted. Is it also the case that the consensus is now that they have resolved to the extent that they are absent for an extended period of time?
If we are looking very specifically at those specific delusional ideas that contributed to the index offense.
Hacking into the screen, into the microphone. Hey, Charlie.
Yes, that's absolutely true that there's been an absence of belief related to, say, Slenderman for several years. If we're talking about symptoms more broadly, there continue to be concerns.
But there was some who thought Geyser had enough treatment at the psychiatric hospital, like Dr. Kenneth Robbins.
What's your opinion specifically about Morgan and her petition for conditional release?
Let her out.
My opinion is that this is a appropriate time for her to be conditionally released.
In your report, you said that it's an ideal time for her to be released. Why is it an ideal time right now?
Because Morgan has improved quite dramatically and needs things that the institution can no longer offer. I think she's benefited a great deal by being at Winnebago in many different ways, but I think she's reached the end of
what could she possibly need more that a mental health facility can't give? What is she needing? Socialization? Is that what he's saying? Bring people in. No, I mean, don't like I don't know. Gypsy Rose has made me very jaded about. Gypsy Rose wasn't even a child. I mean, she was put out there like she was a child. Gypsy Rose has made me jaded. This is Gypsy's. When did this happen? This was in 2014. When did Gypsy's case happen? This is Gypsy Rose's fault. I'm sure of it.
What Winnebago is able to help her with. There's no suggestion that she is dangerous at this time. And the kinds of things that Morgan needs, in my view, help with socialization, help with education, help with becoming independent, are things that Winnebago can no longer provide in an effective way.
Okay, so there's no more treatment she can do at Winnebago. There's no more treatment she can do at Winnebago.
So there's more treatment. I think the downside of being at Winnebago is greater than any benefit that she could receive from the treatment that's offered there.
Psychiatrist Dr. Kayla Pope, who works at the state mental hospital where Geyser lives, was called to testify.
Charlie is over on YouTube.
By
Or
the
over
judge.
on, I'm sorry, Facebook.
She echoed Dr. Robbins' conclusion that it's critical for Morgan's development to be granted conditional release.
You're aware that both of them find Morgan at this time not suitable for conditional release?
I did hear their testimony to that effect.
And they believe that Morgan still represents a significant risk of bodily harm to herself or others?
I did hear their testimony to that effect.
You don't agree with that?
I would say I probably agree more with Dr. Robbins' assessment of the situation. Morgan has not had any dangerousness for several years now. And I do think at this point it is critical for her to make the transition to the community to help with her ongoing development.
You don't believe 6 months from now she would be less ready to go into the community, do you?
No.
I mean, he's harassing her at this point.
But I do think that
Are you a
critical
psychic?
period for
Can you
development is
predict
closing, as
what will
Dr. Robbins
happen in the
identified.
future?
During Geyser's April hearing, she elected not to testify. And when it came time for the judge's ruling, he ultimately ruled Geyser still presented a risk to herself and the community.
This court is satisfied by evidence that's clear and convincing that Ms. Geyser does pose a significant risk of bodily harm to herself, to others, or of serious property damage for the reasons that I've stated. Now, as she works hard, she continues to do what she's supposed to do, but that doesn't change this risk. Remember that the community is concerned with risk, dangerous risk. The community is concerned to a great extent as well with what happens to Ms. Geyser. But the primary concern in the balancing, and we talked about balancing earlier, in the Randall case, they talk about the balancing that goes on in the court's decision. The ultimate determination of dangerousness requires a careful balancing of society's interest in protection from harmful conduct against the equity's interest in personal liberty and as well as autonomy. So that's the balance. But the balance is the public interest in staying away from harmful conduct. Under these circumstances, this court satisfied that the scales tip in favor of the public, and it tips that way by clear and convincing evidence. So in this matter, after hearing all of the credible evidence, which I'm satisfied was very well presented by both the state as well as by the defense, I'm satisfied that the petition should be denied.
Now Geyser hopes on the third time around, the judge says yes. The one-page petition cites state laws that requires the judge to appoint at least one.
So they basically just said, go back 6 months. You're completely unfit right now. We couldn't possibly let you out, but come back in 6 months. So she's back for her third go.
An expert to examine Geyser and produce a report within 30 days of being appointed. That hearing is set for early next month. So how likely is it Morgan Geyser will actually be released? I want to bring on now clinical and forensic psychologist Dr. Joni Johnston. Joni, it's always so great to see you. You know, the Slenderman case was everywhere when it had happened, but now more than a decade later, Morgan Geyser is still in a psychiatric hospital, hoping to be released just.
And I just wanted to double check I do put the links to everything that we do in the show notes in the description. And we typically don't watch everything in its fullness. I speed it up. I talk over it. I don't read everything in its fullness. I do this for fair play use, and under the fair play use law, it's completely unneeded for me to put everything in the show notes, but I do it because I feel like it's important to get things all nice. And if you want to see it, you know where you can go. And yeah, so, but I do want you to know that this, I took you back in time. And so some of the videos were old, 7, 10, 14 years ago. Or when did this happen? 14 years ago. So this one was released a day ago. So
Just like Anissa Weier.
she's not been released yet in a month. I believe like in her third go, they're going to give it to her. If both of the doctors say, yeah, she's good to go, they're going to release her. What do you guys think? Do you think she'll be released on her third time?
Weier. Joni, what's been your
I guess
reaction?
it's also important to remember that by like the grace of God, Payton didn't pass away, but 19 times they really intended her to have it happen.
To Geyser applying for her third chance now at release?
Well, it makes sense in a way that she would be there longer than her co-defendant at the time. I think that she was perceived as kind of the mastermind. She got a longer sentence. And so I think that it makes sense that the people who are evaluating her, who've been treating her, are likely proceeding with caution. They want to make sure that if she's to be released, that she's going to be safe in the community, that she's on her way to living a life that's crime-free, and that she's able to, have some insight into her mental health disorder. And so there's a lot of factors that go into evaluating whether somebody is ready to be released into the community. And of course, safety is the number one concern.
And talk to me about what all goes into this type of evaluation and how much of her age at the time of the offense is factored into the recommendation to the judge.
100% her
Well, certainly age is always a factor when you have somebody who's 12 years old. But I think also the actual crime that's been committed is a huge factor as well. And so what's going to be happening, and what has been happening, I'm sure, is that the psychologist involved, there's always more than one, because multiple opinions, I think, are important, just to kind of make sure that one person isn't far over to one side or the other. They're going to be meeting with her, doing some psychological testing with her, and also, and in some respects, I think more importantly, really looking at her records, talking to people who've been treating her, talking to people who've been around her every day, and taking all that information and putting together some kind of assessment of whether they think she's safe to be released. I mean, it's a very, very challenging question to answer, because we can talk about statistics and likelihood and risk, but it's very, very difficult to take all of that and apply it accurately every time to one person.
And Morgan Geyser applied once, then withdrew her petition. During her second petition, she had a whole hearing where different psychiatrists who evaluated her spoke about her risk. And that second hearing happened just in April of this year. In your opinion, what makes this time different as far as Morgan petitioning the judge to be released on conditional release? And do you think that it'll be successful this time around?
Well, I think that, oftentimes when individuals are either up for parole or they're up for, in this situation, conditional release, they have a set amount of time that they have to wait to reapply. And I believe 6 months was the amount of time, the minimum amount of time that she could wait to reapply. So it makes sense to me. I know that she's certainly eager to be released and that she's been very clear about that. And so I'm sure her attorney has looked at her treatment and talked to her at length. And so, I'm not surprised that within 6 months she's applying again. So I think that's the first part of it. Whether she will be released, I think, is really going to depend upon how her evaluators and her treatment team feel specifically, I think, about her credibility and her treatment, and also about her insight into her severe mental health disorder. I know that there's been some concern about some of the statements that she's allegedly made to some of her treating clinicians, for example, saying that she, somehow faked mental illness to get out of a horrible family situation. And, on the one hand, I think people kind of look at that and they kind of go, oh my God, this is somebody who was able to fool us for 8 years and pull the wool over our eyes. I think from a treating perspective, it's the opposite concern, because if you look at her records and what's been revealed and some of the things that people who've observed her have seen, is there's a lot of documentation that this is somebody who was psychotic.
I'm sure she was psychotic, and what teenager or whatever would say that I was just, like around their friends, I was just faking it. I'm sure. Even like when you're mentally ill, you don't like really know you're mentally ill. So she was very obviously not faking it, but Anissa was very obviously faking it.
significant amount of time. And so the concern is not, was she pulling the wool over her eyes? But one of the things we know about schizophrenia is that a lack of insight can be a symptom of schizophrenia. So the question then becomes, okay, is this a person who has a severe mental health disorder but doesn't think that she does? And that's of concern, of course, because there is a connection in her case between her symptoms and what she did. And so we want to see that she is aware, that she is actively in treatment, that her symptoms are under control, and even more importantly, that she recognizes, the risk and stressors and triggers that might cause her to begin decompensating.
And why
Hi, Lydia.
do you think a judge granted Anissa Weier conditional release and Morgan Geyser hasn't had that same opportunity? Do you think it's because at the time of the offense that it was Geyser who was the one who had stabbed Payton Leutner, while Anissa was just the one kind of egging her on during the stabbing?
I think that was maybe a factor at the beginning. I would imagine.
Here's the thing: when you are interviewing people, you often know the answer to the question, but you ask it because it needs to be put out there. So, but she's asking very obvious questions.
What became more of a factor is how she progressed over the time that she spent in a forensic hospital or in a psychiatric hospital. So even though they're starting out with similar crimes, and I know that we've already talked about the fact that Morgan, I think, was held more accountable and seemed to have more of a major role in that. But I think when you're talking about release, you're also looking again at how, Alyssa's been, how she progressed in the 10 years that she was there, or that 7 or 8 years that she was inside. And so she was, for example,
not 2014 it happened.
Not exhibiting any severe mental health symptoms. If they felt like as she got away from Morgan, that there was this kind of enmeshed relationship, and as she got away from Morgan, that she began to kind of recover and she didn't seem to have severe mental health disorder, she's going to be treated differently and she's going to be perceived differently.
And in these types of requests for conditional release, how much does the judge factor in what the victim has to say?
That is such a tricky one because I think, ideally victims and victims' families would always have a voice. And I think that they certainly will have a voice, whether it.
I just think this one's a little bit different because she lived. Like I keep saying it, but I mean, that's an obvious question that it's just different because she lived and the girls got sentenced into a mental health facility. And yeah, that if I had to go away, I'd rather go to a mental health facility for 40 years or another one got 20. Like, I guess, and it's very obvious in mental health facilities, you don't even have to do half the time. You don't have to even like she got out in 7 years and she was supposed to do 20, and now this one's 10 and she was supposed to do 40. I'm all for letting people out if they've done the work and blah blah blah, but not that fast. No, you need to do a little more time for what you've done, because you need to be in there for more than 7 years and more than 10 years, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. And I also don't know what treatment is like in a mental health facility. And I guess it would just depend the mental health facility they landed in. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm pretty sure I've seen in the comments that you guys think that they shouldn't be out. Like, no, they shouldn't be out. Like Gypsy Rose shouldn't be out. It's too soon. Yeah. Huh. And all these people I hate Gypsy Rose. I just blame it on her. Lydia Jade says, I can't comprehend how kids that age can do something like that. I think it's like a lot of the influences now that it's getting easier to do it. In blaming the iPad use, they did, the cousin who was younger did bring up a good point that, like, in Anissa being bullied, and Morgan quite obviously was different. She's different, and she's just different. And neither girl had a lot of friends, so they bonded quickly and were tight. But they didn't have, like she said, like if it was like a group of 12 girls around, one of the 12 would have been like, "No, stupid, it's creepy pasta. It's not real." Like, right? I mean, if they had been more social, or maybe if like the bedroom door could be closed, she wouldn't have been like hiding to watch it. She could have like he did say that she showed him a photo of the this is Anissa's dad who blamed the iPad, that she did show him a photo of Slenderman and Jack Skeleton from, Nightmare Before Christmas, and he didn't think anything of it. He looked at it and saw it as two cartoons, and I guess didn't take the moment to say, like, what is that? Like, if I saw the Slender Man next to Jack Skeleton, I would be like, what is that? Asking a few more questions, perhaps, instead of blaming it on the iPad. And she was sneaking the iPad because you wouldn't let her shut the door. And there's blocks on the iPad that you can do. And there's ways, maybe back then there wasn't, that you can watch what your kids are looking at. Can't you? I think so. I don't know. I'm not 100% on that, but I think there's ways to monitor your kids. There's got to be ways to monitor the kids. I mean, I'm sure they're going to get something here and there, but if you're talking to them, if you're communicating, even when the 12-year, 11 to, I don't know, what is it? 17, 16, where they can be impossible, where you don't want to talk to them, but you have to talk to them, and they don't want you to talk to them, but you still got to talk to them. But you got to let them close their door and have some privacy and grow. And don't blame it on the iPad. But I do think Morgan had a problem. And I'm truly happy that we're not sitting here talking about Payton not making it. It was amazing, her story. The ABC one is amazing. She actually talks about laying there, and she had to get up and crawl to the more towards where I don't know if it was a bike path or if it was an actual road, but she had to crawl there, and a guy walking his dog, I believe, found her. So the trauma and the trust issues she must have, I don't know. But I mean, that's the thing, these tragedies, I don't know if you watch Amen and Black, but I really like their message. And they were talking about their friend who unalived herself. You don't wish for these traumas, but these traumas that either break you or make you. And if you let them make you, you feel like you can overcome anything. So I have a sneaky suspicion that that's Payton's mindset, that she can overcome anything. I'm sure she's a human and she gets, those things, but I'm sure that is her mindset. And that's the mindset I'm trying to get. I was thinking today, I have leveled up for sure to the next level, because I feel like for a while, just getting out of bed and going into the living room and making my coffee and taking the dog out and doing all that was my accomplishment for the day in my recovery from all the pain issues and everything, the traumas with my family. I mean, that was good enough. And I had to let that be good enough But now it's different. Like I want to get up actually, and I want to do more. Like getting up, it can no longer just be the accomplishment. I've got to have more. And so it's pretty exciting. I've leveled up. I still am like tore up about Maybelline not being here, but I'm doing more and more walking without her. I still can't do the complete walk that we used to do, but I am like going to the river more. And I'm starting to visualize what I want, because anytime I've ever gotten anything I really wanted, I like visualized it over and over, which is manifestation. But but you have to, when you're visualizing it, you have to also conjure up the feeling that it would like, that you would imagine it would bring up. Like, so you have to have those feelings too. And in doing that, I realized that in the feelings, Maybelline's energy was in it. So I was like visualizing and like, sorry, I'm going to pull it back. And it was like, she was next to me. But now she's got to be next to me in a different way. And I'm trying to figure out that way. But I feel like this is one of those things that happen to you that either make or break you, or me. And even talking to my therapist, she's like, I said, I think I've leveled up. And she's like, I think you've leveled up too. She said, because in the past, you would have probably had to go in the hospital. So 100% I've leveled up. I miss her tremendously, though. I don't want people to think that I don't miss her. Like, the leveling up is like, doesn't take away my grief for her. And I realized today it's also painful for me because people, when I say I've lost her, if they hear like she's a dog, it's like, she's just a dog. You know, like to some people, she's just a dog. And that's painful because she was so much more than just a little dog. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, I guess we have to pick what we can be grateful for. And today I'm like really grateful I'm talking about a story that the victim lived, because in so many of these stories, they don't live. So even though the girls are being let out, and that's terrifying, the beauty in this story is that the victim lived. So, okay, guys, I think that's all I have. Let me look really quickly to make sure I did not say. I've been starting to write things down throughout the day when I am thinking about the show, because I think about so many things, and I haven't been saying them because I forget. So I've been starting to write them down. Yeah, no, I think I said it all. Okay, guys, be sure to give this live a thumbs up. Please share my content. That helps so much. I mean, sharing is a tremendous help to me. So if you could do that, I would be really grateful. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Heavenly and Chris C., for being the best wrenches there is out there. I couldn't ask for two better wrenches that have become very good friends, and I love you tremendously, and I'm very grateful for you. I'm very grateful for everyone who stuck around. Main Chick Carrie, Lydia Jade. I haven't seen you in a while. It's so good to see you again. And who else? I saw a whole bunch of people hanging out. Veronica, Nightbot, always hanging out. If I missed you, I'm sorry. Kathy, Kathy Knight, I didn't see you come through. Hi, Kathy. If I didn't see you come through, I'm so sorry. I'm trying to be more attentive to the chats. And I've also decided I'm going to start showing my face more. Just not right now because I'm still crying every day, but maybe in a week or maybe I'll set a goal, and then like a week from now I will start popping on just to show this, just to like, so you can connect with me. Because I know I feel more connected to they don't all content creators, you don't have to always see them, but I feel more connected when you do see them. So I'm going to do that. Yes, the best mods ever. You never get notifications. Sometimes if you unsubscribe and then resubscribe and make sure you hit the bell, that solves that issue. I'm talking over on YouTube. And the show notes are always put over on YouTube. Sometimes I remember to do it over on Facebook, but they're always on YouTube. Okay, guys, thank you for being here. Yeah, see, Heavenly had the same idea. Okay, guys, thank you so much for being here. They have a new thing where you can queue up the intro and outro. But the problem for me is I change my intro and outro. I don't know if anyone ever notices, but I like update here and there, and I always update when we get new dragonflies. But they do have this new outro where you can queue it up, and you don't have to like put it in where you share. I wanted to do Streamlabs, and What a Bug said she would help me out, and then she's like just disappeared. I asked her to come on the show 2 or 3 times, but yeah, I still want to learn Streamlab, but I think you can do a whole lot more with Streamlab. But like eventually I want to get a second monitor where you can kind of check out Junie and see what he's doing while I'm doing the show, because I think that's always fun. Okay, guys, but anyway, here is the outro. If nobody's told you this today, and even if they have, I'm telling you this. I love you guys so, so much, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Hi, guys. Welcome to Parawomenradio. I'm Amy.
Carefully strumming this old guitar, words rolling out into the fire. Never ask why my heart burned blue. Here in the haze where you inspire me. Here in the darkness I hear my cue. Time to find some solitude. Here where my soul bleeds openly, deep in the heart of sin and you. Here in the blue, I'm falling deep into you. Here in the blue, I'm dancing with you tonight, and it feels fine. Carefully strumming this old guitar again.